All right, so one common question asked in Gen Chem 102 is calculating unit cell densities or edge length or radius. I don't really like this section, but it's in the course, so I'll teach it. We have the three types of packing, right? Simple, cubic, and then face-centered. And so we can draw relationships between the radius and the edge length of one of our cubes, right? So for simple, it's A equals 2R. For body-centered, it's A equals 4R over square root of 3. And then for face-centered, it's A equals the square root of 8 times R, right? The R is not underneath the square root there. And so using these kinds of properties, we can calculate densities and different kind of things here. So we can calculate density. And remember, density is equal to mass over volume, right? And so it seems like a pretty simple plug and chug type of equation, but it's actually not that simple. So generally in density, they want this in grams per centimeter cubed, right? So let's think about how we're gonna go through this. Let's start off first with this volume. Think about what the volume of a cube is. Well, a volume of a cube is equal to the length of one of its sides cubed. That's why it's called cubing, or that's why it's called a cube, right? So depending on which cube you have here, you can get some kind of relationship between R and the length, right? So you either plug in, if you had, simple cubic, you'd plug in 2R over here and then cube it, and so on and so forth. And then think about what mass here is. Mass, we want what is the mass of the atoms in one of these cells. So if we kind of try to break this down and think about what it would be kind of the number of atoms times the mass of each atom. But you can't actually, what's the mass of an atom is actually kind of a pretty difficult question to figure out. But what we can use is molar mass. So molar mass has units of grams per mole. And then what we can do is we can actually divide by Avogadro's number, right? So 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms per 1 mole. What's going to happen is that these moles will cancel out. And then what you need to do is you need to multiply this by how many atoms per cell there are. So number of atoms per cell. And that depends on which kind of packing you have, right? It's either going to be 1, 2, or 4. And then this cancels out. The atoms cancel out with one another. And then you're left with grams. The other thing you have to be careful of is that these radiuses are generally given. For down here, this radius is generally given in picometers. We need to transform those into centimeters. So the conversion here is that 1 picometer equals 10 to the negative 10 centimeters. So we'll do an example of that in the next video. But this is the general theme of these types of questions. You want to take this density equals mass over volume and break it down into the constituent parts.